I do think that we do ourselves and our kids a huge service by being sometimes more like camp counselors than parents. I realize that, you're not going to be the same as a camp counselor. I mean, none of us are going to be as fun as like the kids' camp counselor, but we can have our moments. We can create some of that fun as parents.
Welcome to Tilt Parenting, a podcast featuring interviews and conversations aimed at inspiring, informing, and supporting parents raising differently wired kids. I'm Debbie Reber, your host, and today's episode is about a rite of passage for many kids, summer camp. I know from personal experience that summer camp can have many benefits for our kids, and I also know that it's not always easy to find the best fit or to prepare our kids for what to expect and have a positive experience. So this week, I'm bringing onto the show Audrey Monke, a summer camp director, parent, writer, and speaker who follows the research, trends, and best practices regarding parenting, positive psychology, and youth development. Audrey is also the author of the new book, Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults, a book that introduces a framework of intentional strategies to help parents create the same kind of transformational culture that kids experience at camp. Audrey has researched and written extensively on the topics of summer camp, social skills, parenting, and well-being, and she is on a mission as a parent and youth development professional to help raise a generation of kids who become responsible, independent, and flourishing adults. So in today's episode, we are going to talk about that, but we're not only going to touch upon the benefits of summer camp for kids and how parents can tap into that summer camp magic at home, but because camp can be such a challenging experience for a lot of our differently wired kids, I asked Audrey to share her insights with us about things like how to communicate with camp staff about a child's neurodivergence, how to find the right summer camp, and how to support a differently wired kid before and during camp, and much more. This is a great episode if you're considering summer camp for your child or you have concerns or questions about how to ensure it's a successful experience for them. I hope you enjoy it. And now, on with the show. Hey, Audrey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Debbie.
This is such a great conversation to be having before summer, and I know a lot of parents are thinking about camp, and so we're going to be talking about camp from many different angles today, which I'm excited about. But before we get into that, can you take a few minutes to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited. I love your podcast so much. My name is Audrey Monke, and my background is actually as a summer camp director. I've been working at summer camp for this will be my 35th summer. And so over those years, I've had the pleasure of working with thousands of kids and young adult counselors and parents, and have really had sort of a front row seat to just kind of what's going on with kids and trends and parenting and trends with kids. And I've also always had a lifelong interest in well-being and personal growth. And so I've always read a lot about those kind of things and ended up actually going back to school just a few years ago as a 48-year-old to get my master's in psychology because I was really intrigued with the whole field of positive psychology and the study of what makes people flourish or thrive, and especially how we can apply that with kids. So I'm a camp person. I have my master's in psychology. And then, on a personal level, I'm married and have 5 kids. And so been raising 5 kids. They currently range in age from 15 to 25. And they're all very unique and lots of fun. So I've kind of had this world colliding of managing a business and raising my kids and helping with these other people's kids, training counselors, and all of these things have kind of intersected to just a lot of kind of experience and ideas that I now am really trying to share with people both inside the camp community and also outside the community.
I love that when worlds collide and, all the personal and professional just comes together in such a fantastic way. So I love that. So, well, let's just start by talking about just camp in general, sleepaway camp. I know that you are a fan of camp for kids and what it can provide for them. So what, in your opinion, experience, what makes camp so important for kids?
Well, I obviously am biased because I work in the camp industry and I'm, immersed sort of in the field. But I also know, and this is part of why I went back to school too, there's actually research backing what camp industry professionals know. And that is that camp experiences have a positive impact on kids. And so, anecdotally, from many years, I've heard from so many kids and then adults who are reflecting on their time as camp, that camp changed them for the better, that helped them kind of figure out who they were, helped them discover new things about themselves, things they liked, and also probably most importantly, helped them form really, really close, long-lasting friendships that many last for their whole life, like adults who are still close friends with their camp friends. And so I knew this all anecdotally. And now both my own research and the research of many other people, including a big study that's going on right now through the University of Utah, that is just really trying to figure out what are the outcomes that kids get from camp. And probably the number one thing that they're finding through the early findings, they're halfway through this 5-year study, is it's the relationships, it's the relationship skills, and it's the actual close relationships. So that really is sort of the unique contribution of summer camp, in that in other places like school, for example, the focus and like the primary goal and focus is, academics at school. And when teachers are trying to help kids with some social things or friendships, it's sort of a side thing or, an occasional assembly. But really during the time when kids are socially interacting, like recess or that kind of thing, there's not a lot of guidance for them. And then even like in sports, same thing. Most coaches are not really thinking about the interpersonal skills kids need to, be good teammates and that kind of thing. Instead, they're focusing on, the drills and the skills for the sport. And so it's so awesome to be able to work with kids in a place, summer camp, where our number one focus is on those social emotional skills. So it is the relationships, it's the friendship skills, it's the character. So we get to focus on that. And I love that that's our primary focus more than in any of those other venues. And this is not to say that every camp does this. So I want to make sure I get the caveat, because I would say, I'm kind of speaking more to camps that are more of a traditional camp where, lots of different activities are going on and the focus is on sort of the group and the whole experience, not a camp that's like a soccer camp or something that's just for one specific skill. Mm-hmm. Although there are sports camps where the counselors are also trained in the, social skills. So anyway, so I think that's really the magic of camp, is the connection and relationships, the face-to-face time kids get. Most camps, and I wish all camps, but most camps are unplugged. So kids don't have their phones and there's no screens. And so it's a very unique time where kids both have the opportunity to be away from their screens and also to have independence from their parents while they're at camp.
Right, right. So I'm curious to know I often do these interviews and I draw from my personal experience. So I'm doing that here. With some differently wired kids, they may go to camp and not make a connection. They may not have that close bond, or they may really struggle throughout camp. In your experience, is there value in surviving? I'm using air quotes, but but in kind of getting through that. I mean, I know there was a Sleepaway 3-week adventure camp that my son went to last summer, and he didn't particularly love it. It was for twice exceptional kids, but he didn't really form any connections, has stayed in touch with no one. But I was pretty pleased that he was there, that he made it. And so what would you say about the benefits, even for kids who don't necessarily thrive in the way we might want to see them?
Well, I have so many thoughts on that. First of all, I would have loved for him to have gotten more coaching and help with the connections while he was there. So I don't know the program, or I can't really speak to that, but I do think that even children who, like I hear from a lot of parents whose kids really have trouble at school with social connections and friendships, who still figure out and make some connections at camp. And so my hope is that all kids can at least get, one friend from the experience, that they find someone that they have something in common with, that they can connect with. And there are a lot of different kinds of camps and with different focuses. And especially if you can find a camp that has, the interests or activities that your child's really excited about, they can often connect with other kids over the common things that they like or experience together. Yes, there is some benefit always to kind of overcoming or getting through difficult or challenging experiences. And a lot of like wilderness, outdoor things, they really do build some important traits like persistence and just, you find out you can do more than you thought you could do. And you find out you can do more for yourself away from your parents. So there are some benefits just to being, away and doing something and getting through it. My hope would be, of course, that there's more to it than just that. And so, I don't know, I can't speak to that specific program, but, did you talk to them ahead of time and sort of give them like ideas and strategies of what could help him connect more?
No, I think I just put my trust in their ability, because it was specifically catering to differently wired kids, that I kind of was like, okay, they've got it. This is what they do. And I actually think that they did a good job. I just think it could have been the group dynamic. It just didn't gel. It also could just be who my kid is, and expectations.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I would say, regardless of what program you're sending your kid to and whether they're specially geared towards something or not, or you're not sure, I really encourage parents to contact and talk to someone at the program, the camp director or whoever coordinates cabin placements and counselor assignments, because honestly, you are the expert on your kid. And I know you talk about this a lot on your podcast. No one knows your child better than you do. So regardless of the training or whatever the focus is at the camp, I know that camp directors love to get the insights before your child comes to us. I interview a lot of camp directors on my podcast, and we always talk about how sometimes parents will call and say, "Oh my gosh, so sorry to bother you, but I have a question." And we're like, "No, it's not a bother. We want you to call us because we want your child to have a great experience. And the more we know ahead of time, the better we can ensure that your child has a good experience. So we really want to talk to you and figure out what are things that are going to help this child succeed at camp, have a great experience, connect with others. What are little tips that you've found are helpful?" So that would be one thing. I don't know that it would have helped in this circumstance. It sounds like they were well prepared and that he didn't have a terrible experience, which is good, but it just wasn't quite, I guess it didn't quite meet that magical expectation that he was going to come home after 3 weeks and have a few friends he would keep in touch with or have connected with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate too the kind of permission to communicate with the camp staff and counselors about who our kids are. I think there's obviously, for many of us, some concerns, how much is too much to share, and not wanting to be that squeaky wheel for a number of reasons. So it's just nice to hear as a reminder that really people who do this work, they do it because they want the campers to have an amazing transformative experience. So any insights we can share to work towards that goal is a great thing.
Yes. And I also think it's really important that you as a parent feel comfortable with like the camp's philosophy and, their behavior management strategies and, their counselors training. And by talking to them, you can get a feel for, is this going to be a place that I feel comfortable partnering with, for this experience for my child? And I think you can get some insights from that conversation of if you feel like this is going to be a good match for your child. And, I think that a lot of times parents are hesitant, especially if their child has some kind of diagnosis or, what we call a label about some kind of thing going on. Sometimes parents are hesitant to share that because they don't want, their kid coming into a new place and immediately being kind of like, oh, that's this kid with such and such. But I know, again, just like at any place that's well run, any kind of information is very much confidential and only shared with people who need to have that information. In fact, one of the things we tell our parents is that on the form they fill out for counselors, we don't want them to tell them any kind of, nothing about any kind of diagnoses or medicine or anything like that, but instead share with the counselor what are things that are helpful in working with this child, like reminders in advance, different things like that. And then on the health information, that the nurses have, then you place if they have any medications that they take or things like that. So we try to let parents know that it's important to share information, but you don't have to share everything with everyone. But you do need to make sure that we have the whole picture and that we're able to then care for your child and set them up for success before they even arrive. And so that's really, I think, if you're not comfortable sharing about your child, then it's probably not a good program for you to send your child to.
Well, how do we find programs that would work for our child or have the best chances of working? You mentioned looking for programs where the activities and interests are things that would attract your child and would increase the chances that they would connect with other kids over those activities. Any other criteria that we should be paying attention to? We'll be right back after this quick break. Maybe I've watched too many seasons of The Amazing Race, but every time I have to go somewhere on the subway, I treat it like a competition. It's all about making the right gut decisions about which route will get me there the fastest. Sometimes those decisions get me where I'm going early, and other times my gambles don't really pay off. Probiotics can't help with most gut decisions, but if your gut needs a little support, Ritual has your back. Their Synbiotic Plus, a 3-in-1 supplement, has clinically studied prebiotics, probiotics, and a postbiotic to support a balanced gut microbiome. I've been using Synbiotic Plus for about 6 months now, and it's become a core part of my morning routine. I take the mini capsule every morning while making my way through my inbox, whether I'm at home or I'm on the road, because it doesn't need to be refrigerated. And the capsule itself is delayed released, which helps it survive the harsh conditions of the upper GI tract for delivery to the colon. And that's exactly where we want it to go. Ritual invested in a study modeling the human colon, which showed that Synbiotic Plus significantly increased microbial diversity and the growth of beneficial bacteria. There's no more shame in your gut game. Synbiotic Plus and Ritual are here to celebrate, not hide your insides. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/tilt. Start Ritual or add Synbiotic Plus to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/tilt for 25% off. During this month of planning and organization for big transitions, rhythms and routines have been absolutely essential for our physical and emotional well-being. So Green Chef nights are reliably and predictably a good night. We know the ingredients will be fresh and prepped, the instructions easy to follow, and the meal delicious. We're all still talking about last week's turkey tacos with mango chimichurri sauce, refried beans, and Monterey Jack cheese. Green Chef contributes to a healthy lifestyle with easy and delicious menus like fresh seasonal salads and grain bowls. And with over 80 weekly meal and market options, plus rotating options to suit a variety of lifestyles, whether Mediterranean, plant-based, calorie-smart, keto, protein-packed, gluten-free, there are always plenty of options to choose from. Whatever you select, you'll get farm-fresh ingredients, organic whole fruits and veggies, and premium proteins, all delivered straight to your door. I love those 4 words. Straight to my door. Oh, and one more thing I love about Green Chef, they have an app, which means it's easy to manage meal preferences and delivery from your phone if you want to. And I, for one, want to. I am in that mode where I'm making the most of little moments like waiting in line at the pharmacy or for the F train to pull into the station to tackle all of those to-dos. So the convenience of an app is key for me. Green Chef has a special offer for Tilt listeners. Go to greenchef.com/tilt50 and use code TILT50 to get 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. That's 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months when you use the code TILT50 at greenchef.com/tilt50.
I'm very much, and I talk about this a lot, very much a fan of looking for accredited programs. So programs that are accredited by the American Camp Association. So the American Camp Association, I'll share the link with you so you can share it with your listeners, has a Find a Camp resource on their website. And it has kind of everything on there. And it talks about even, there are some camps that are specifically designed for kids with different special needs or requirements. But also just all about the different activities, day camps, resident camps, different price ranges, all that, and geographical locations. And they list a lot of programs. Not all of them, though, are accredited, but some are designated with the accreditation. I'm really a huge proponent of accreditation because basically it's assuring parents that this camp meets kind of the industry standards of training, supervision, program, all the program and safety and health requirements. So it's sort of, to me, the baseline, like, let's make sure this is an accredited program because that's going to share some things. And then I really do think that you want your child involved in the process. So if you're thinking about a camp, find out from them, what are they interested in? Most camps have, videos on the websites and different things that show what's going on at the camp. So I would say you really want your child to be, even if they're nervous, at least excited about what's offered there. And then, like I said, it's the conversation with the people, meeting maybe families who've been to the program, talking to them, talking to parents. You could ask the camp, hey, my kids has this and this going on. And do you have any other parents who have children who have similar issues that I could talk to? Can I talk to them? And so you can I would really just spend your time doing some research, talking to both the camp and other people who've been to the camp to see if you feel like it's going to be a good match for you and your child.
I like this idea of getting your child involved in the decision and then, of course, watching videos and going over the packet and that kind of thing so the child has a sense of what to expect. Do you have any other tips for how parents can prepare their child for camp? I know with a lot of our kids, they're excited about it or they're okay with it. And then as the camp gets closer, then suddenly they want to put the brakes on and get out of it. So just any ideas around how we can prepare them in a way that feels positive and respectful, but also makes it clear that we are still going to camp.
Yes, this is really common with all kids. In fact, it's very common that, you're really excited 6 months before, it all looks really fun. And then when you get down to the wire, the kids start getting nervous, just like adults get nervous when you're doing something new that you are not exactly sure, who's going to be there and what to expect and all that. So a couple things that I always tell parents is to, first of all, stay really positive in expressing confidence in your child, just letting them know, you know what, I know you're nervous and that's normal to feel nervous about new things. And I know that this is going to be really great for you. I know you're ready for this. Just really build them up. We all know that our kids really read our emotions a lot. And if they see us kind of wavering or they hear us talking with someone else and saying, oh, I don't know how it's going to go, or whatever, that really spills over to them and can make them more anxious. So even if you're nervous, which is natural as a parent, just really being positive with your child and being real that, yes, there could be some challenging moments and yes, you could miss home. And I'm really excited for this experience because it's going to help you grow. And I'm so excited because this is one of those things that's going to be this adventure that's going to help you have other bigger adventures, later as you get older. And so there's a lot of positive messages about the benefits of the experience. I've written a lot about this. I actually have a post I can share with you, just messages for a hesitant or anxious camper, because it's common anytime you're doing something new to just feel like, I don't know if I really want to do this. I'm uncomfortable.
Well, I really like the language you shared too, just that steadiness, like you're ready for this and it's totally normal to feel nervous, but you've got this, and just sharing that really calmly and confidently, I imagine goes a long way.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I actually really am a proponent of sharing and talking with kids ahead of time about even homesickness, which some people say, oh, don't talk about it. It's going to make it happen more. But that is not true. People are going to feel what they're going to feel. And so by giving kids language and normalizing, everyone feels better. So with the just homesickness, which is something that we anticipate all kids are going to have to some extent. Some are very mild or will say, I didn't feel homesick at all. And some are more extreme. But regardless, it's something that we talk about before camp with the kids and the parents. We talk about it when the kids arrive at camp. In our orientation, we mention to them, hey, you know what? This is new to some of you. This is your first day here, and it's normal to be missing home. So here are some people you can talk to. Here are some things you can try. So we really talk about it instead of making it something like, we're not going to talk about this because then it'll go away, because it doesn't. It just makes kids either keep it inside or feel like what they're feeling isn't okay. And so we really want to make sure that kids know they are going to be taken care of and they can have their feelings and they can cry if they're feeling homesick, and there'll be people to comfort them and to help them with coping strategies. And it doesn't mean they need to go home just because they're feeling that. And so that's something that I really feel strongly about, that, hopefully all camps are doing this. I know a lot do when they're kind of informed about kids and development, is just making sure that kids know it's okay to feel all the things. It's okay to be really having a lot of fun and really missing home. That's kind of life. Sometimes you have your, all these different emotions going on. And so we'll tell kids like, it's okay that you kind of get a little homesick at night. That's pretty normal. And look, you also had fun today. You can have both going on at the same time.
Okay, so let's switch gears. You have a new book out. It's called Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults. And I love that because I think that's what we all want. We want to raise humans who can thrive and be independent and kind of rock their lives. So tell us why you wrote that book.
Well, it goes back to sort of my experience and my history, in that I saw that so much of what we do at camp and how we train our camp counselors in some of just sort of the sort of basics of child development and well-being are things that aren't necessarily taught to teachers or parents in any venue. So some of these really basic things we have, most camps have a week to 10 days to train college age kids to work with their campers. And so that's kind of a big task. So we really need to kind of narrow down what are the big messages, what are the things they need to learn about communication and leadership and, different needs, and narrow it down and teach them how to be these really positive leaders of kids. And so many times I've had the thought over my 3 decades at camp of everybody should be a camp counselor before they're a parent, because it's such a great training ground before you become a parent yourself. So I had thought that. And then, about in 2012, I started just writing posts. I started my website, Sunshine Parenting, and it's called Sunshine Parenting because at my camp, we have camp names and my camp name is Sunshine. So that's what the kids and the counselors and even the parents call me at camp. So I started this little blog in 2012, and I just started putting down mostly thoughts and things that we did with our staff during staff training. And it sort of just kind of kept growing. It was mostly our own camp families, but then people from other camps and teachers and other people started following along. And then later I started a podcast in about 2016. And so I just found that so many people were open to hearing these, what I considered sort of normal, activities that I kind of thought, oh, doesn't everybody know about this stuff? I found out that they don't, and that some of the simple strategies and things that we do at summer camp can really help families just create kind of more fun, connection, better relationships at home. And I tried out a lot of the stuff in my own kids. And so I really knew that this stuff works and it's not that hard. And so I wanted to make sure that whether or not people have ever been to summer camp or been a camp counselor, they could still learn these kind of camp secrets of things that we do that create transformational changes in a lot of the campers that parents witness when their kids get home. They'll say, wow, gosh, they changed so much. They seem more confident. They seem, they're better socially. Wow, how did you do that? And so I really wanted to just share with people so they can try some of these things just with their own kids or in their classrooms and in other settings.
We'll be right back after this quick break. Hey there, it's Debbie. I love making this show and sharing conversations about how to support our awesome neurodivergent kids. I've seen how even one little insight from an interview can spark a big shift in daily life. But I know that raising complex kids can be messy and lonely. And just when we think we figured it out, something comes up that boots us right back to feeling overwhelmed and stuck. That's why I've poured everything into creating a way for parents like us navigating complex parenting journeys to join together and chart a path that feels positive, hopeful, and doable. It's the brand new Differently Wired Club experience. In the club, you'll get personal support from me and other seasoned parent coaches, 6 live calls every month where you can connect and get your personal questions answered, the opportunity to learn directly from authors and experts like I have on this show, monthly themes for getting specific and tactical, an exclusive private podcast feed, and the best, most generous community of parents. Seriously, these folks show up for themselves and each other, and that right there is really everything. Because it's a daily reminder that we're not alone. Our kids aren't broken, and we have totally got this. The recently rebooted Differently Wired Club is on a brand new platform with its very own iOS and Android app. It is such a great space. However you learn, whatever your style, no matter the ages, genders, and neurodivergent profile of your children, the Differently Wired Club can help you cultivate the positive shifts you're hoping for. Join us today by going to tiltparenting.com/club. That's tiltparenting.com/club. I hope to see you on the inside.
Are you overwhelmed by the things that get in the way of you doing what you want to do? Are you looking for ways to simplify life to better align with your values? Do you want to create space in your schedule so you have room for more of the good stuff? Play, joy, relationships, gratitude, and more? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you to check out Edit Your Life, a podcast to help you edit the unnecessary from your life so you have more room to enjoy the awesome. Through episodes with me, Christine Coe, and a range of super smart, compassionate, and thoughtful guests, you'll come away with big picture insights and practical ways to declutter your home, schedule, and mental space without getting bogged down by perfection. I have always believed that small moments and actions matter tremendously. My goal is to help you find agency and space in your life through doable baby steps that will leave you feeling accomplished instead of overwhelmed. Check out Edit Your Life wherever you enjoy your podcasts.
It seems like so much of it is a mindset piece too. I think during the school year, so many of us are just trying to get our kids through the school year. We're running around to activities or sports things, trying to keep them on top of their homework. We're juggling work and, all these pieces and siblings of our lives. And so there's such a more relaxed atmosphere, at camp that I'm sure supports the child too. So in your experience, are these things that parents, is it possible really to bring that camp vibe or the gifts of camp into those hectic lives that many of us are leading?
I really think you can. And I've done that with my own family. And what's funny is when I started parenting, I kind of was like doing it the same way everyone else was. And that when my kids, so my oldest who are 25 and 23, when they were little, I was doing the too much thing that a lot of parents get into where you're working and you're also, you're doing a lot of volunteering and you're being the room mom and you're leading the scout troop. And I was doing all that stuff and pretty frazzled because of all of it. And one day I just realized, gosh, it can be more like camp at home. I don't need to be frazzled all the time. And so it's really just requires, I think, some stepping back and really evaluating, do we need to be doing all these things? I mean, if your family is so busy that you don't have time to just hang out together and, chat for 5 or 10 minutes or cook a meal together or turn some music on while you're doing the dishes or something, little things like that, then you kind of need to rethink that if your life is so overscheduled or frazzled, then there needs to be some reprioritizing anyway. And that's what I found, especially with so many kids in my house, I needed to sometimes just say, okay, even though a lot of other people are doing these things, we don't need to. And I don't need to say yes to every volunteer opportunity. And, it does require kind of stepping back and being willing to not do things like the way everyone else is. But I think, and I'm hoping that my book gives people that insight and that permission to realize that it doesn't have to be so unpleasant. Life can be more fun and connected, but you do need to put some effort in. And sometimes it requires just minor habit changes or little new traditions that you start. And it can start small with, very, very simple things. It doesn't have to be some major family transformation, but I do think that we do ourselves and our kids a huge service by being sometimes more like camp counselors than parents. I realize that, you're not going to be the same as a camp counselor. None of us are going to be as fun as like the kids' camp counselor, but we can have our moments. We can create some of that fun as parents that we do as camp counselors.
Does this mean I need to tune my guitar tonight and break out the folk songs after dinner?
Do you play guitar?
I do.
Well, and have you ever played with your kids?
Sometimes I will pick it up. It's been a while. I'll pick it up and strum and sing a few tunes. I don't know that it's appreciated, but I will do that. Yes.
Well, I think a lot of these things, I would say yes, especially if it's something that you enjoy. One of my biggest messages to parents always is one of the best ways you raise a thriving adult is showing them what one looks like. So it's very powerful, our modeling. And I know you're a big proponent of self-care. I listened to your episode on, self-care and not that kind of indulgent, like whatever, leaving for a week to go to a spa, but just taking care of yourself. I'm a huge proponent of that. And I really learned with all my kids and with my job and my life that there were things that I need to do to take care of myself. And it actually has ended up modeling for my kids what adults do. So for example, I love to read. So I read a lot. My kids see me reading. I like to run and now it's sometimes more walking. And my kids see me doing that. And now my adult kids, I notice that they like to do some of those things too. They're big readers and they like to go on runs. And so I see that I think a lot of what we do as parents is just show our kids, okay, so this is how a thriving adult balances life. You get to hang out with your friends sometimes, you have to work your job. Sometimes your job takes more time, sometimes less. I think that's a big part of it is realizing that we can't show our kids, if we're just a harried parent and our whole life just seems to be revolving around them and getting them what they need and what they're doing, they're not really that motivated to grow up. It doesn't make it look that fun to be an adult.
Right. Oh, that's a great reminder. So, okay, you have organized the book into these secrets, things that parents could just keep in mind in their lives to support their kids. And one of the favorites for me was Camp Secret number 6, which is that kids are more capable than parents think they are, which I think is something we just need to remember every single day. And it can be hard as our kids get older to recognize their development. So can you tell us more about this secret and what you know that we need to know?
Sure. I love that one. Well, one of the things, it's really hard as a parent. I think we look at our kids and to us, we still see our baby. Even some of us even still refer to like my 15-year-old son who's like 6 feet tall. I'm like, oh, my baby, because he's my youngest. And so I think that as parents, it's just natural. These are our children. We love them so much. And to us, in some level, they'll always be our little kids. So sometimes that translates into not realizing that as they grow up and even when they're pretty darn young, they can start doing a lot more for themselves than we think. I also think that sometimes parents equate being a good parent with like doing more for their kids, like sacrificing yourself, so staying up really late, folding all their laundry or making their lunches for school or whatever it might be, we oftentimes people associate those things with that makes me a better parent, all this more that I do for my child. And you need to be attentive to your children and take care of all their needs. And especially when they're very small, they need you to do everything for them. But I think we neglect sometimes to realize that even a 2-year-old can help with food preparation. And a 3-year-old can pour a little thing of milk over their cereal. And kids can start doing things a lot younger than often parents think they can. And one of the things that helps is if you sometimes have other adults who are helping with your child. Sometimes they let your kid do more and you start seeing, oh, wow, when they're at grandma's house, they helped weed the garden. So that's another thing that they can start doing. Or so I part of it is just kind of a psychological or a mindset shift in realizing that sometimes we underestimate what our kids can do. Another issue is usually, just like we are, that's the way we do things, you're not good at things when you first start doing them. So, you have to learn how to do things. And it takes some patience to let other people learn how to do things. So, I take the example of, like if you're making cookies with your child and you really like to make your cookies well, and you have like the measuring and you have a system or whatever. And, many of us have these things that we do and we've really mastered the technique. Well, so if you're teaching your child how to do it, it's really hard not to just grab the measuring cup from them and say, wait, let me do that because you're not doing it right. You're not quite doing it right. And that's just kind of a metaphor for everything. We could just keep grabbing things from our kid and saying, oh, you know what? You don't really do that right yet. So I'm going to do it for you. Or we can sort of do this process where, first our child watches us do it. And then next, we kind of do it side by side, like together, like maybe we're holding their hand as they dip the measuring cup into the flour. And then, the next step is we let them just do it all by themselves with us watching. And then they're doing it on their own. And I think it's this, you can think about that progression with just about anything, like brushing their teeth and doing their laundry and packing their lunch. I mean, everything can be thought of as this process of slowly getting our kids trained up in doing more and more things for themselves and freeing us from doing those things for them. And it's quite amazing. I remember my 4-year-old daughter, when my oldest was 4, she loved being in charge of her own breakfast. So I would pour milk into like a 1 cup, like one of those pouring liquid measuring cups, and put it on the lower shelf of the refrigerator. So she would get out her cereal box, pour it into her bowl, and then go to the refrigerator and get her little milk pitcher. And she was just as proud as can be at, quote, making her breakfast. But, and then next it's letting them stir the eggs in the pan and learn about keeping, your hand away from the hot pan and all that. So anyway, I just think it's an important thing to remember as a parent that our kids really can do a lot more than we think they can.
Such a good reminder. And thanks for sharing that 4-step process too, for how to get them to a point where they can do it on their own. That's something Julie Lithcott-Hames, we had on the podcast, How to Raise an Adult. And we talked about that as well. And it's just, you can't really hear it too many times that we can always be helping our kids develop these skills and having them pitch in and have that sense of, agency and feel good about their contribution.
Oh, and it builds their confidence so much. And by the way, I totally reference her in my book when I'm talking about that 4-step process. I got it from her.
Yeah.
And you kind of can think about that process with everything. And some take longer or not as long, but it's really important because I think sometimes people say, oh, my child's not ready to go to camp or go to college or go to get a job because they don't know how to do such and such. Well, life has to be this process of continually learning more and more skills that they're going to need as an adult.
Exactly. So, and speaking of that, you have some great resources in the back of the book, including you have ideas for family meetings, which I love. You have a list of 50 questions the parents can ask to build connection with their child. You have a household task audit And then my favorite is the Ready for Adulthood checklist. So can you just say a few words about why you included those in the back of your book?
Yes, I love resources. I'm always finding things and just developing things on my website, just simple ways to think through and kind of simplify different things that we want to do. The Ready for Adulthood checklist really came from, I think I wrote that the year that both How to Raise an Adult came out and The Gift of Failure by Jessica Lahey. And it was just my thought process with my own kids. I really wrote it thinking through, okay, so what is it that I want my child to be able to do, or what do they need to know how to do to kind of be what people would consider an adult, like doing these things for themselves? And some of the things on the list, to be honest, like I don't know how to do. Like I still don't know how to change a tire, but I do know how to call AAA to get my tire changed. So it's not necessarily like all of us know all these things, but being that checklist was just my starting point for just something that you can give to your child and basically empower them and say, you know what, here are some things that you're going to need to know. Where do you think you are on this? And kids can look at it themselves. And, I recommend it kind of for adolescents or, maybe age 13 and up, and go through and have them think about, okay, you know what? I know how to cook some things. I know how to go to the market and find things. I know how to call and make my own appointments. And I like this as a way of slowly giving your child more responsibility for themselves and kind of making them feel more like they are the one responsible for making sure they're ready. It's not really an external thing. It's more, it gives them the autonomy to figure out what they still need and to ask you what, for help if they need help or guidance on one of the areas. So I just like giving the power to the kids. And I use that list. We give it to our junior counselors at camp. It's something that I just go over with them and I say, hey, this is this list. It's not all encompassing. I'm sure there's some things I missed, but where are you on it? And I have them read through it and check off the things and say, okay, so you're going into your junior or senior year of high school. Think about how you can learn some more of these skills that you're going to need. And so then they look at it and they take responsibility for it themselves. And I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. All right. So for listeners who want to connect with you, learn more about your work, and also find the book, how can they engage with you?
Pretty much the easiest way is just to go to my website because everything's on there. It's sunshine-parenting.com.
Okay. And the book is available everywhere?
It is pretty much like Amazon and Barnes and Noble and indie books. There's links on there. You can go to happycampersbook.com and get straight to the book page on my website. And that's where you can links to order it. But you can also just look it up at the different places.
Awesome. So listeners, I'll include links to that and the other things we talked about on the show notes page. But Audrey, I just want to thank you so much for this conversation. I feel like we could have talked for hours. And we might have to have you back on to dive into some of this a little deeper, but I'm really excited for you and for the work that you're doing and just connecting all these pieces together for us. It feels very inspiring to me. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed the conversation. I feel the same way. I could keep talking to you all day.
You've been listening to the Tilt Parenting Podcast. For the show notes for this episode, including a link to Audrey's website, Sunshine Parenting, her new book, Happy Campers, and all of the resources we discussed today, visit tiltparenting.com/session 162. Don't forget to leave a rating or a review or both for Tilt Parenting in iTunes if you haven't done so already. Ratings and reviews help keep this podcast visible in an ever-growing sea of podcasts. Thank you so much for considering. Lastly, for the price of a monthly cup of coffee at your local Starbucks or Pete's or Gregory's or Joe and the Juice, you can support the production of this show. It's easy, it's pain-free, and I would be grateful for the help. To learn more, go to patreon.com/tiltparenting. And that's all for this week. Thanks again for listening. For more information on Tilt Parenting, visit www.tiltparenting.com.
If you're a parent, I invite you to join us at the Mindful Mama podcast, where it's all about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. with sometimes hilarious and always thought-provoking experts and friends. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm Hunter Clark Fields, and I can't wait to see you there. Listen in to the Mindful Mama podcast.